The United States Senate is investigating links between COVID-19 injections and cancer, and the attacks on scientists trying to publish the truth. Tune in tomorrow, Wednesday, June 3rd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Watch live at brokentruth.tv.
The Broken Truth, I'm John Davidson, and today we are with the lovely and talented Dr. Sabine Hazan. Welcome, Dr. Hazan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr.
Having
Hazan,
me back,
I know, right? We've upgraded. We've got two handsome cameramen. Oh, it's a whole new bag.
Yes.
So we should talk a little bit about the fallout from the last time we were on an interview in our movie.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened since then?
I got 4 papers retracted.
Oh, fun.
We got to find out who was retracting them. We got to find out, imagine a hypothesis being retracted because we cannot make any hypothesis anymore in medicine.
Yeah. So you had an idea, just a hypothesis, which is a basic tenet of science.
Right.
And you published an idea. I wonder if, gee whiz, ... and it gets retracted.
Right.
Who did that?
So there's a group of scientists and investors that are basically retracting a lot of papers, not just mine. It's almost like the burning of the books that we saw during the Holocaust.
Right.
That's what it feels like, certainly. So it's interesting because there must be some validity to the hypothesis, because why would you retract something that's, why would you retract the hypothesis? Unless it opens up a can of worms for other things, like could it improve, could this drug improve? So the hypothesis was on ivermectin and the fact that it increased this important microbifidobacteria. Of course, we only showed it to increase within 24 hours. And ivermectin was thought of as possibly improving the microbiome within 24 hours at the time that you're severely having COVID and hypoxic. And of course, that brought on another paper that was, looking at hypoxia and how come I lost no one during the pandemic. But if we looked at hypoxic patients, how come they survived? What happened? What did I do? And the treatment, the key to treatment of hypoxic patients was really in, giving multiple drugs, to give drugs to kill the virus, to give drugs to improve the bifidobacteria. Remember, I was the lab that found COVID in the stools, which basically we looked at it by whole genome sequencing. So that was the first, look at COVID in humans during the pandemic by whole genome sequencing. What we saw when we discovered COVID in the stools was that everybody had a different mutation in their viral sequence, okay?
Yeah.
And what we also discovered is that if you gave certain drugs like hydroxy and Z-Pak, you kill COVID in the stools. But the problem, because we had a stool assay that showed positivity of finding COVID by whole genome sequencing, and then after you gave hydroxy and Z-Pak, the virus disappeared. But here's the problem, it also wiped out your microbiome.
Right.
So hydroxy and Z-Pak was not necessarily the answer for everybody, right? Now, when you look at ivermectin we noticed improved the bifidobacteria within 24 hours. There's no long-term studies on that. But it's also not that great at evacuating and killing the virus, because we noticed that, and by the way, this is early information, it's not published yet, but we noticed that if you give ivermectin, doxy, zinc, still some people had COVID in their stools. It didn't eradicate it completely. So there's a need for a stool test. There's going to be a need for a stool test for COVID in the future. We've been trying to push that. But of course, we're working with the, agencies that are not really educated on the microbiome because it's a new science. We're working with agencies that are not really understanding the importance of finding COVID in the stools. And so when you think of your long COVID, your vaccine injured, the questions that the agency should be having is, or are, is COVID still in the stools of that patient? Because if COVID is in the stools, I need to get rid of COVID in order to improve the patient. The second thing is, did we kill off the microbiome by trying to kill COVID? And that's another issue, right? So is the patient having long COVID because there's still remnants of COVID in their stools? Is the patient having long COVID because we've demolished their microbiome from the medication to try to kill COVID? And did the patient have long COVID because they started off with a dysbiosis to begin with, an imbalance in the microbiome? So to not look at the microbiome in long COVID, you've missed the boat. I mean, you're somewhere else where you should be looking at the microbiome. And remember, microbiome is your immunity. Immunity starts in the gut.
You talk about testing poop, and you found COVID in the poop. How was Gates Foundation funding the sewage tests that supposedly found COVID in the sewers? Was that PCR?
No, they actually, so you could do PCR of COVID in the stools. I think they also did some whole genome sequencing in the septics. Yeah.
Because
but that's how they traced the virus, right? So the National Institute of Standards did a great job tracing the virus.
The Gates was connected to that.
Gates is connected, we found out Gates is connected to everything. I think, the Gates Foundation, wherever there's an opportunity, they're going to step in and try to look at it. I think what was a bit upsetting, and, we've talked about it on the last meeting, is the fact that, why did he have to embark on support a hydroxychloroquine trial or support an ivermectin trial? And if he was going to do an ivermectin and support, it should have been with combination therapy, not just, and the problem that I have, to be quite honest, with all these placebo-controlled trials is we're not really looking at the microbiome. There is going to be a time where we should mandate to look at the microbiome of the placebo group, and especially if you're treating viruses, right? Don't you think? I mean, a person that has a lot of bifidobacteria and you're giving a placebo, and a person that has zero bifidobacteria cannot be compared, right? Because the person that is receiving the placebo and has a lot of bifidobacteria is going to survive based on the amount of bifidobacteria they have in their guts, right? So I think there's going to be a time where we're going to have to be a little bit more precise with these placebo-controlled trials, especially when you're trying to fight microbes, because what we've learned from COVID is immunity starts in the gut, and it's a war between good bugs and bad bugs. And we need to know who has a lot more good bugs to start off with and who has a lot more bad bugs to start off with, because they're not at the same platform. They're not at the same level. You're basically comparing a person that's never exercised to an athlete that does marathons, that doesn't, you can't expect both these people to run at the same level. One person that's never run and another person that's running marathons cannot be compared. So why are we comparing a person that we're putting on a placebo-controlled trial that has, a spectacular microbiome to a person that has a desolate gut? You can't.
One of the great things about you is that you're not afraid to ask questions, which is dangerous. But I'm curious, what are the questions that you're asking now?
I'm asking a lot of questions. So I'm asking, is it, so what is a normal microbiome? What microbe is good? What microbe is bad? Am I right? I'm constantly questioning myself. I don't think, I think, I don't let ego, come in the way. And I'm the first person that if somebody says to me, you're wrong and this is why you're wrong, I'll say, you know what, you're right. But show me the data. Show me the experiment that got you to see and to say that I'm wrong. But so far, I've been right. We found COVID in the stools. We found loss of bifidobacteria in severe COVID patients. That was reproduced by different labs. Even the vaccine killing the bifidobacteria was actually reproduced by different labs around the world that actually showed that the vaccine killed bifidobacteria. They didn't say it that way. They kind of said it with, well, possibly we could use probiotics, but we all know probiotics is not going to be the answer for that. Right. So the other questions that I have is, are probiotics an answer, or can probiotics harm us more?
Sure.
And should everybody be taking probiotics? Should a healthy person be taking probiotics, or is that suppressing their ability to grow their own bifidobacteria? And here's the other thing, and I say probiotics for bifidobacteria, but does everybody have the same probiotics?
Right.
Maybe one microbe that's good for you is actually bad for me.
So
many questions.
As our time is kind of unfortunately running out, what are you working on next? Any big clinical trials coming up?
Yes, autism.
Really?
So I'm doing a protocol with the FDA watching me. It's called familial fecal transplant in autism. So what we're basically doing is we're looking at a family, and we're looking at the kid that's neurotypical and the kid that has autism. And if the kid that's neurotypical has a good microbiome, we're going to transplant it into the kid that is autistic to see if there's any improvement.
Interesting.
In the autism. So unfortunately, that trial is expensive to do. And as we talked about, corporate America, research.
What does that cost to run a trial like that?
About $3 to $5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, because your coordinators are like $65,000 a year. Your monitors are $120,000 to $200,000 a year. Your project leads are $200,000 a year. Your regulatory personnel that deals with the FDA, that does the paperwork with the IRB, that looks at the regulatory, are $400 an hour. Laboratory test, CARS testing, ATEX, pediatric neurologist, pediatric GI, blood work to follow these kids' health, etc. So transportation, process of stool processing. So there's a lot that goes into a trial that it makes it expensive.
HHS and Secretary Kennedy has spoken very publicly about the concern with autism in the United States.
Yes.
Are they funding the study?
We've not received any funding yet.
Is there any chance that they might?
I mean, I'm hoping. I'm working with Senator with Robert Kennedy.
So this is a really important. This is an area of focus that needs to be looked at. Are you just supposed to fund it yourself? Are you look under your couch and get some change? Is that how it works?
It's interesting because it used to be when you used to do a discovery, you'd have all these investors and everything on the discovery. I've never been in the position of having had a breakthrough, but what I'm finding out is that not only do you have to have a breakthrough, but you also have to figure out the funding to do the research to show the data of the breakthrough.
So how can people donate to help this?
So we created a microbiome research foundation.
Okay.
So microbiomeresearchfoundation.org. Please donate. We also created some products that are clean products, clean vitamins, biomeboosters.com.
Okay.
So you can either purchase those vitamins and all the proceeds go to the research. And then, the foundation, donate to the foundation, all the proceeds of that. I even wrote a book called Let's Talk SH.T. All the proceeds of that book that are on the website. If you go to progenibiome.com, the book is there. All those proceeds go also to fund the research. So, I've yet to make a salary in 7 years that I've been invested in this, and I'm nonstop every single day. All my money essentially, I want to see this happening. And I don't want to just see it happening for autism. I want to see it happening for Parkinson's. I want to see it happening for Alzheimer's. I think this study is important because of the fact that it's going to show us microbes that disappeared after we implant and restored the speech, to finally see which microbes are the bad microbes, to finally say with certainty, look, I attained a cure. I look back and see what changed in my microbiome. Yeah. This microbe changed. Therefore, this is a bad microbe to begin with, and possibly that microbe has a lot of toxins or secretes toxins that we need to look at. So I think this is an important study that's not only going to help kids, but also give us answers on the microbiome, which is really needed because everybody's talking microbiome, but nobody has any idea what microbes is good, what microbes are bad.
Well, I will happily promote this website. Let's try to get you some good donations, guys. And Dr. Sabine Hazan, it's so wonderful to see you.
Same here. Thank you.
All right.
I believe in the Constitution. I believe that one case, the right case, can change the world. If you believe this too, Freedom Council is for you. Pursuing a major case can be overwhelming, but we provide a community of practice so that you have the resources available to support your case. My name is Warner Mendenhall, and we are Freedom Council. Join Freedom Council today. freedomcouncil.org.